The northeast region is one of the geopolitical zones of Nigeria, consisting of Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Taraba, and Yobe states. The crisis in this region is one of the most severe in the world, with over 8.5 million people in need of humanitarian assistance in 2017 in the worst affected states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, out of whom 6.9 million people are targeted for assistance. The crisis persists. Insecurity continues to pose problems in bringing assistance, especially with the dry season enabling an intensification of hostilities between the Nigerian armed forces and non-state armed groups. Humanitarian crisis and disease outbreaks of various kinds is a challenge in the northeastern region of Nigeria. Unending conflict, constant internal displacement of persons, and the unpredictable return of large number of refugees from neighboring countries since late October in 2017 is a huge task for both the government and non-governmental organizations helping to end the humanitarian catastrophe. Large-scale displacement of persons took place in Borno State and northern part of Adamawa State, with floods of internally displaced persons in Polka, Goza, Ngala, Ungunu, Askira, Konduga, Bama, and Mafa especially. According to a report published by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in Nigeria on 25th January 2018, 28,000 persons have fled various locations for insecurity, poor living conditions, and voluntary relocation. Due to a surge in hostilities in Borno State, aid groups estimate that over 36,000 women, children, and men have been displaced in recent months, most of whom are in dire need of food, water, shelter, blankets, and clothes, as well as medical care. Host communities are also enormously vulnerable. These newly displaced populations report that many more families remain in areas inaccessible to humanitarian workers. The 2016 January bombing incident by a Nigerian Air Force jet at the site for internally displaced persons in Ran, Borno State, is a major disaster at efforts towards reducing the humanitarian crisis, where at least 54 persons were killed, several injured, including many aid workers. Acute malnutrition, climate-sensitive diseases, humanitarian crisis with associated displacement, injury, disease and death, and accidents are factors affecting the people. In 2016, about 11.3 million people were internally displaced in sub-Saharan Africa, most of whom chronically displaced due to conflict. These emergencies now present challenges not just for countries, but also for regional and global health security. When people are malnourished, avoidable diseases such as cholera and malaria can turn deadly. The biggest killer is often malaria. The WHO and the health sector partners are working with the Nigerian government to support malaria control efforts. The humanitarian crisis in northeastern Nigeria has intensified after 8 years of violent conflict. The crisis has evolved over the years, leading to widespread displacement and devastation, as well as acute food and nutrition insecurity and a desperate shortage of essential health care. Northeastern Nigeria is at the heart of the larger Lake Chad Basin crisis. Northeastern Nigeria, northern Cameroon, western Chad, and southeast Niger. which affects some 17 million people. The WHO and partners are seeking to help 8.2 million people with health assistance across the region. $3.7 million people in need of food assistance living in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe. Acute malnutrition. 943,000 in need of nutrition assistance, of whom about 440,000 suffer from severe acute malnutrition. Estimated number of IDPs. 1.6 million displaced people in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe. 5.2 million people are in need of emergency food assistance in the three most affected states of the troubled Northeast, while 450,000 children are severely malnourished. This is according to the United Nations Under-Secretary, Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Mark Lowcock. Lowcock, who led a UN team to Maiduguri on a working visit, says the UN will scale up intervention efforts to address the humanitarian crisis occasioned by the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast region. The visit is to enable the UN to assess the extent of damage and impacts of the Boko Haram insurgency in the Lake Chad Basin. The team had also visited war-ravaged communities in Niger Republic, where the affected population complained about issues of protection, especially as it concerns women and children. The Undersecretary disclosed that 17 million people were in need of humanitarian assistance in the Lake Chad Basin, out of which 8.5 million were in northeastern Nigeria. The United Nations says that before the end of 2018, the non-government sector is prepared to alleviate the plight of 6.1 million of Nigeria's 7.7 million people displaced by insurgency and climate change in northeast Nigeria. This development comes as human development indices across the infrastructure, health, education, agriculture, and water resources sectors are lagging far behind in the northeast following years of conflict in the region.